The wrench slipped from my fingers and clattered against the concrete like a gunshot in the dead of night. Rain hammered the garage roof in relentless sheets, turning the world outside into a blurred watercolor of streetlights and shadows. And there, in that electric split-second, Victor's hand shot out. Not for the tool, but for me. His callous palm clamping around my wrist with a grip that felt like it could rewrite my entire goddamn history. I hadn't cried since the day my dad walked out when I was 12. But that night, with Victor's eyes locked on mine like he was seeing straight through the cracks I'd spent years patching over, the dam broke. "Adrielle," he whispered, his voice rough as gravel under tires. "You don't have to carry this alone anymore." It wasn't just words. It was a lifeline tossed into the churning sea of my isolation, and I grabbed it without thinking, pulling him closer until our foreheads touched, breaths mingling in the damp chill. That moment, it started with a knock on my door at dusk, the kind of ordinary interruption that upends your life without warning. I'd been in the garage, elbow deep in the guts of my old Ford pickup, trying to drown out the echo of Jake's last voicemail. "It's not you, Adrielle. It's the life I want. With her." Jake, my ex of 3 years. The guy who'd promised forever in whispers over late-night coffees in Seattle's Pike Place market. The guy who'd shattered me when he chose the picket fence and a fiancé over the messy truth of us. I deleted the message, but it looped in my head like a bad country song. Raw, unrelenting, American as apple pie and regret. The neighborhood was the epitome of Pacific Northwest suburbia. Rainier Valley, just south of Seattle, where the houses huddled like old friends under evergreens, and the air always smelled faintly of wet earth and distant fairy horns. My place was a modest craftsman bungalow, inherited from my mom after she lost her fight with cancer 2 years back. The garage was my sanctuary. Tools lined the pegboard in neat rows, a testament to the handyman skills she'd taught me. Hammers for pounding out dents, screwdrivers for tightening loose ends. But nothing fixed the hollow ache in my chest. The knock came sharp, 3 raps that cut through the classic rock humming from my Bluetooth speaker. Springsteen. Because nothing says midlife crisis at 28 like Born to Run on repeat. I wiped grease from my hands on a rag and swung the door open, expecting the UPS guy or Mrs. Hargrove from next door asking about her leaky faucet again. Instead, there he was, Victor Hale, all 6'2" of him, filling the frame like he'd stepped out of one of those Patagonia ads. Dark hair tousled from the wind, a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes the color of storm clouds over Puget Sound. Gray, piercing, alive. He wore a faded Seahawks hoodie and jeans that hugged his legs just right, a duffel slung over one shoulder like he was ready to bolt or stay forever. You could tell he was new to the block. The moving truck still idled in the driveway next door, boxes stacked haphazardly under a tarp. "Hey man," he said, flashing a grin that crinkled the corners of his eyes. His voice had that easy drawl, not quite southern but laced with something warm, like he'd grown up chasing fireflies in the Midwest before landing here. "I'm Victor, just moved in next door. Sorry to bother you so soon, but my plumbing's acting up. Sink's backed up like it's got a grudge. You got a plunger I could borrow? Or maybe a snake if you're feeling generous." I blinked, caught off guard by the casual charm rolling off him. Neighbors in Rainier Valley didn't just show up like that. We nodded from porches, waved from cars, kept our messes behind closed doors. "Yeah, sure," I stammered, stepping aside. "Adrielle, come on in, the garage is this way." He followed me through the side door, his boots thudding softly on the linoleum. The garage smelled of motor oil and sawdust, a comforting chaos that felt worlds away from the sterile emptiness of my living room. I rummaged in the toolbox, pulling out a heavy-duty plunger with a rubber grip worn smooth from use. "This should do it. Just don't let it splash back on you. I've heard horror stories." Victor laughed, a low rumble that vibrated through the space between us. He took the plunger, our fingers brushing for the briefest second, enough to send a spark up my arm, the kind I hadn't felt since Jake's first kiss under the Space Needle fireworks. "Appreciate it, Adrielle. You're a lifesaver." Name's Victor, by the way, full name's Victor Hale, but everyone calls me Vic, transferred out here from Chicago for a job at Boeing. Engineering stuff. Riveting, literally. We chatted as he lingered by the workbench, the rain picking up outside like background applause. He was 30, single, widower? No, just figuring it out, he said with a shrug that didn't quite reach his eyes. Divorced, maybe? He didn't elaborate, and I didn't pry. That's the American way. Surface-level stories over borrowed tools, saving the deep cuts for therapy sessions or bar stools at 2 a.m. By the time he headed back with the plunger, the sky had cracked open, thunder rumbling like a freight train over the Cascades. "Oh, you won," he called over his shoulder. "Beer on the porch tomorrow? If it stops pouring, that is." I nodded, watching him jog through the downpour, duffel bouncing. That night, as I lay in bed listening to the rain drum against the window, I replayed the brush of our fingers. Stupid, I told myself. You're broken, Adrielle. Jake proved that. But hope's a sneaky bastard. It slips in like fog off the sound, quiet and uninvited. The next week blurred into a rhythm I hadn't known I needed. Victor became the neighbor who waved from his porch with a coffee mug in hand, the one who dropped by with takeout from the faux joint on Jackson Street when I worked late shifts at the community college, teaching intro to lit to kids who dreamed bigger than my own stalled-out ambitions. I'd published a short story once, in some lit mag from Portland, about a guy lost in the woods of his own making. He got a nod, but nothing more. Now I graded papers on metaphor while Victor tinkered with his Harley in the driveway, grease smudges on his cheeks like war paint. Our first real beer was on my porch, the kind of autumn evening where the air bites just enough to make the warmth of the bottle feel like salvation. He cracked open a Rainier, local brew, crisp as the Olympics' first snow, and leaned back in the Adirondack chair, boots propped on the railing. "So, Adrielle," he said, tilting his head, "what's your story? You strike me as the type with chapters one wanna read." I hesitated, the words sticking like burrs. How do you sum up a life of quiet betrayals? Mom's chemo appointments that ate our savings, Dad's ghost letters from Reno that never arrived, Jake's slow fade into straight normalcy after his family's Bible-thumping ultimatums. Not much to tell, I lied, sipping to buy time. Grew up here, stuck around after Mom passed. Teach English, fix cars on weekends. The usual Seattle grind. Coffee, rain, existential dread. He chuckled, but his gaze held steady, like he could see the lie for what it was. A shield. Bullshit. I see the way you look at that stack of notebooks on your kitchen table. You're a writer, aren't you? The brooding kind with metaphors that cut deep. Heat crept up my neck. Guilty, but it's just scribbles. Nothing that sells. Nothing that heals, either? He set his bottle down, leaning forward. Our knees almost touched, the space between us humming with unspoken questions. Look, Vic's rule number 1. Life's too short for half-assed stories. Tell me one. For real. So I did. Not the whole ugly truth, but a sliver. The night Jake left. How I'd found the engagement ring hidden in his sock drawer. A diamond promise to someone else. Victor listened without interrupting, his face shadowed by the porch light, jaw tight. When I finished, he reached out, clapping a hand on my shoulder. Solid, grounding. That guy's a fool, Adrielle. But fools make the best cautionary tales. You're more than his wreckage. We talked until the stars pricked through the clouds, about his own scars. A dad who worked the Chicago steel mills until it broke him. A mom who painted watercolors of Lake Michigan sunsets. Victor was out, had been since college, he said casually, like mentioning the weather. No drama, just fact. It hung there, easy, no judgment. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not scanned for flaws. As the weeks folded into months, Victor wove into my days like ivy on brick. Mornings. Shared runs along the Duwamish River Trail, our breaths sinking to the slap of sneakers on pavement. Afternoons. Him dragging me to Mariners games at T-Mobile Park, hollering at foul balls while I nursed a hot dog and nursed the flutter in my chest. Evenings. Porch symphonies of laughter and lowball whiskey, stories spilling like the rain that never quite quit. But under it all simmered the fear, the one that whispered Jake's name in the dark. Victor was different. Open, steady, with a laugh that chased shadows. Yet every brush of his arm against mine in the garage, Every lingering glance over engine parts ignited a pull I couldn't name, or wouldn't. Romancy, in this life of quiet routines, it felt like tempting fate, like handing over the keys to a truck you know might stall. One Saturday, as frost nipped the evergreens, Victor showed up with a six-pack and a proposition. "Help me with the Harley? Carburetor's acting up, think it's clogged. Your hands are magic with this stuff." I grinned, wiping flour from my apron. Mid-baking Mom's sourdough recipe, a ritual that kept her close. "Only if you promise not to flood the engine. Last time you fixed it, I smelled burnt rubber for days." We dove in, side by side under the open garage door, the air crisp with pine and exhaust. He handed me tools without asking, our rhythm effortless. Wrench to socket, rag to grease. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in bruised purples, he paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Adriel, you ever think about more? Us, not just neighbors. Not just this." My heart slammed against my ribs. The wrench trembled in my grip. Beak. But before I could dodge, a shadow fell across the driveway. A car door slammed, familiar like a punch to the gut. Jake, standing there in his pressed khakis, fiancé's ring glinting on his finger like a taunt, eyes wide with something between regret and possession. "Adriel," he said, voice cracking like thin ice. "We need to talk." The world tilted. Victor's hand hovered near mine, tool forgotten. And in that frozen beat, I realized this wasn't just a knock on the door anymore. It was a goddamn reckoning. Jake's arrival hit like a squall line off the Pacific, sudden, fierce, uprooting everything in its path. He stood there in the driveway, rain-slicked hair plastered to his forehead. That boyish smile I'd once mistaken for salvation now twisted into something desperate. Victor straightened beside me, his body going rigid as a coiled spring, the wrench dangling loose in his fist. The garage light buzzed overhead, casting long shadows that danced like accusations across the concrete. "Jake," I managed, my voice a rasp scraped raw. "What the hell are you doing here?" He stepped forward, boots crunching gravel, ignoring Victor like he was just another toolbox on the shelf. "I drove up from Portland. Saw your light on. Figured you'd be tinkering, like always." His eyes flicked to the Harley, then back to me, pleading. "Babe, Adriel, it's been months. I messed up. Big time. Call off the wedding? We can fix this. You and me like it was." The word babe landed like a slap, echoing the nights we'd curled up in my old apartment, whispering futures that dissolved like mist. But now, it soured in the air, thick with the scent of oil and betrayal. Victor shifted, his shoulder brushing mine. A silent anchor. I felt his gaze, hot and questioning, boring into the side of my face. "Fix it," I echoed, stepping out from the workbench, the cold air biting through my hoodie. "You mean after you proposed to Sarah? After you ghosted me for family values?" "No, jaque. That's not a fix. That's a rewrite, and I'm done being your draft." He flinched, but pressed on, voice dropping to that intimate timbre he'd weaponized before. "I was scared, okay? Dad's church, the expectations, it's suffocating. But I chose wrong. You're the one who gets me, Adriel. The late nights, the dreams. Remember that cabin in the Olympics? Just us, no world." Victor cleared his throat then, low and deliberate, like thunder on the horizon. "Maybe you should go, man." Adriel's made it clear. Jake's head snapped toward him, eyes narrowing as recognition dawned. The neighbor, the interloper. "And who the fuck are you? His mechanic buddy?" The venom dripped, laced with that old possessiveness, the kind that masked fear with fists. "Victor," he said evenly, setting the wrench down with deliberate calm. "Friend. And yeah, the one who's been here while you played house in Portland." The air crackled, two storms colliding. Jake's face flushed, fists clenching at his sides. "Friend? Bullshit. I know that look. Same one you used to give me, Adriel. Don't tell me you've—" "Enough," I barked, the word exploding out of me like pent-up exhaust. Rain started again, fat drops splattering the driveway, blurring Jake's features into a watercolor smear. You don't get to show up after 6 months and stake claims. You left, chose your path. Walk it. He reached for me then, hand outstretched like he could reel back time. Please, one coffee, for old times. Victor's arm shot out, not aggressive but protective, positioning himself between us. He said no. Drive safe. His tone brooked no argument, steady as the evergreens lining the street. Jake's gaze darted between us, the pieces clicking into a bitter puzzle. Jesus, Adriel. Him? This guy's got rebound written all over him. He laughed, sharp and hollow, backing toward his car. Call me when you come to your senses. The engine roared to life, taillights fading into the sheeting rain. I stood there, chest heaving, the cold seeping into my bones. Victor turned to me, his face unreadable in the dim light. You okay? No. God, no. The past had crashed into the present like a rogue wave, dragging me under. Yeah, sorry about that. Ex-drama. The worst kind. He nodded, no judgment, just that quiet solidity. Exes are like bad oil changes, messy, but necessary to learn from. Come on, let's finish the bike. Storms passing. We did, working in companionable silence broken only by the patter of rain and the clink of metal. But the air had shifted thicker, laced with the unsaid. As I torqued the last bolt, Victor's hand found my shoulder again, lingering. For what it's worth, I meant what I said earlier. About more. My pulse thrummed. Beak. Not tonight, he murmured, squeezing gently before letting go. But soon. Promise. That soon stretched into a tense week, Jake's shadow lingering like exhaust fumes. Texts pinged my phone. Apologies laced with manipulation. I miss your laugh. Sarah's not you. I blocked him, but the doubt crept in, whispering that Victor deserved better than my baggage. Still, life pushed forward, American resilience in motion. Work, runs, the grind. Thanksgiving loomed, a hollow holiday since Mom's passing. Victor invited me over, no family for him either, just us against the turkey. His place mirrored mine. Cozy chaos, bookshelves sagging under engineering tomes and dog-eared sci-fi. We cooked, him on the bird, me on the stuffing. Bing Crosby crooning from the radio, the kitchen warm with sage and nostalgia. Over pie, under the flicker of candles, his idea, for ambience, he cracked open. Grew up in Gary, Indiana, Steel Town, Rust Belt dreams. Dad died in a mill accident when I was 15. Mom remarried some accountant, moved us to the suburbs. I came out senior year, fistfight with the quarterback, parade with the GSA. Thought I'd die, but I didn't. Boeing was my ticket out, designing wings that carry people home. His vulnerability cracked me open too. Jake was my first real shot at home. Thought we had it, road trips to Olympic National Park, picnics on Alki Beach. Then his family, the church. He folded like wet cardboard. Victor's fork paused midair. And you? You didn't fold. That's strength, Adriel. Not everyone gets that. Our eyes met across the table, the room shrinking to just us. He reached then. Not for pie, but for my hand, thumb tracing my knuckles in slow, deliberate circles. Heat bloomed, not urgent, but deep, like roots finding soil. I see you, he said softly. All of you, scars and stories, and I want in. I swallowed, heart a drum solo. Me too, but Jake, it's not just him, it's me, afraid I'll break again. Then we break together, he replied, simple as that. His lips brushed my temple, a feather touch, chaste but seismic. The kiss that followed was tentative, exploratory. Salt from tears I didn't know I'd shed, the taste of apple and possibility. Winter deepened, our rhythm evolving into something tender, unspoken. Stolen moments in the garage. Him teaching me to weld, sparks flying like metaphors for us. Me reading him my latest story by the fireplace. His head on my shoulder, critiques gentle as snowfall. We navigated the world as a quiet unit. Brunches at Capitol Hill cafes where rainbow flags fluttered like promises. hikes in Discovery Park where the Salish Sea whispered approvals. But betrayal brews in the calmest waters. It came via email, innocuous at first. Victor's Boeing colleague forwarding a newsletter. Congrats on the promotion, Vic. Engagement party next month. Bring Sarah. Sarah. The name hit like shrapnel. I stared at the screen in his kitchen, piecing it together. The ring he'd never mentioned, the weekend's visiting family that smelled of lies. Confrontation exploded that night, words flying like hail. You're engaged, I shouted, pacing his living room, the Christmas lights we'd strung mocking me with cheer. All this us? And you're planning a wedding? Victor's face crumpled, hands raking through his hair. Adrielle, wait. It's not what you think. Sarah's my sister. Promotion means relocation perks. She's house hunting with me for a place near the plant. I should have told you. God. I was going to, after the holidays. Relief warred with rage. The storm inside me fiercer than any outside. You let me think, after Jake, after everything. How am I supposed to trust this? He stepped close, voice breaking. Because I'm here, fighting for us, not running. But doubt is a thief stealing sleep, souring kisses. I pulled back, walls rebuilding brick by brick. Victor gave space, but his texts were lifelines. Miss your voice. Garage date soon? Spring teased with cherry blossoms along Lake Washington, but our thaw lagged. Jake resurfaced too. A chance encounter at a Rainier Valley farmer's market. Him with Sarah on his arm, all polished normalcy. Happy for you, he lied, eyes raking Victor beside me. Stung, a reminder of paths not taken. The real fracture came mid-May, a Boeing layoff rumor rippling through Victor's world. Stress etched lines around his eyes. He withdrew, buried in blueprints. I pushed, too hard maybe, demanding transparency he couldn't give. Talk to me, I pleaded one night, rain lashing the windows like judgment. I can't, he snapped, pacing. Classified shit, national security. But it's killing me, Adrielle. The pressure. Then let me in. Tears hot on my cheeks. Or are you just like him? Hiding until it's easy to leave? His silence was the blade. He left for a late shift, door clicking shut like finality. Days blurred into ache. I threw myself into writing. A novella about two men building wings from scrap, only to fear the flight. Victor's porch light stayed on, a beacon I ignored. Then, the call. Midnight, his voice shattered over the line. Accident. Factory floor, forklift tipped. I'm okay, but... Come. Please. Heart in throat. I raced through storm-slick streets, tires hydroplaning like my resolve. The hospital glowed sterile under sodium lamps, air buzzing with fluorescent urgency. Victor sat in a curtained bay, arm in a sling, bruises blooming like ink on his jaw. But his eyes, God, his eyes, lit when he saw me. Adrielle. Relief raw and ragged. I crossed the room in 3 strides, collapsing into the chair, hand finding his uninjured one. What happened? Idiot moved, distracted, thinking about us. His grip tightened, for line tugging. I'm sorry. For the secrets, the silence. Boeing's cutting jobs. I didn't want to drag you down. The dam burst then. Tears, confessions, the works. I thought you were gone. Like Jake. Like everyone. Never. He pulled me close, forehead to mine. The beep of monitors our soundtrack. We're in this, Adrielle. Turbulence and all. Nurses bustled, but we carved out our bubble. Whispers of forgiveness. Plans sketched on napkins. Him job hunting local. Me submitting my manuscript. As dawn crept through the blinds, painting us in gold, I realized. Love is an absence of storm. It's gripping tight through the gale. Discharge papers crinkled in Victor's good hand as we emerged into the hospital parking lot. The early light fracturing off windshields like shattered promises mended. My truck idled nearby, a reluctant witness to the night's unraveling. He leaned into me, weight heavy but welcome, sling awkward against my side. Home, he murmured, breath warm against my neck. Yeah, I said, steadying us both. Ours. The drive back to Rainier Valley was quiet, save for the wiper's metronome swipe against lingering drizzle. Streetlights flickered off one by one, yielding to the soft gray of a Seattle morning. Fairy horns low in the distance, evergreens dripping like they'd wept with us. Victor dozed against the window, face slack in repose, bruises a roadmap of vulnerability. I stole glances, heart swelling with a fierce protectiveness I'd only felt for Mom in her final days. Pulling into the driveway, our houses stood sentinel. Mine with the porch swing creaking in the breeze, his with the Harley tarp flapping like a flag of truce. I helped him inside, settling him on the couch with pillows and a mug of black coffee strong as our resolve. "Rest?" I ordered, brushing hair from his forehead. "I'll handle the rest." He caught my wrist, thumb tracing the pulse point. An echo of that first tool handoff, now layered with lifetimes. "Stay? Just be here." I did, curled beside him, his head on my lap. We talked in murmurs as the clock ticked toward noon. Boeing's layoffs were real, deep cuts after a merger gone sour. But Victor had options. Freelance consulting, maybe even a pivot to green tech startups dotting the Sound's shores. "Wings for drones, not jets," he joked weakly. "Less chance of crashing." "And us?" I ventured, fingers carding through his hair. "No more half-truths?" His eyes met mine, clear as tidal pools. "Full disclosure. Starting now, I love you, Adriel. Not the idea, the mess, the writer with grease under his nails and stories in his soul. All of it." The words landed soft, profound, rewriting the narrative Jake had scarred. "Love you too," I whispered back, the admission easy as breathing. We kissed then. Slow, healing, tasting of hospital jello and hope. No urgency, just presence. The humanistic core of us, two flawed Americans forging ahead. Recovery unfolded in tender increments. Days blurred into a cocoon of care. Me brewing broth from Mom's recipe, Victor critiquing my novella edits with that engineer's precision. Tighten this metaphor. It's leaking. Neighbors noticed. Mrs. Hargrove dropping by with lemon bars and winks. The block's quiet affirmation that love, in all its forms, belonged here. But conflict doesn't vanish with sunlight. It simmers, tests. Jake's final betrayal came via certified letter. Divorce papers from his rushed marriage. A curt note. "You win. Be happy." Win? It wasn't a game, but closure bitter as black coffee. I burned it in the backyard fire pit, Victor's arm around me, flames devouring the last tether to what was. "You okay?" he asked, chin on my shoulder. "Better than okay. Free." Summer arrived with a vengeance, rare blue skies over the Olympics, barbecues on the shared fence line, our hands brushing over potato salad bowls. Victor landed a gig with a Seattle cleantech firm, designing solar arrays for off-grid cabins. "Wings for the Earth," he called it. I submitted my manuscript to a small press in Portland. Rejection stung, but his post-it notes on the pages, "This line soars," kept me aloft. The climax brewed on a July evening, heat wave mirage shimmering the asphalt. We'd planned a simple date. Picnic at Gas Works Park, the old gasification plant's rusting bones silhouetted against the sunset. But as we spread the blanket amid wildflowers, Victor's phone buzzed, insistent, ominous. Boeing, calling him back for a critical consult. Eyes conflicted, he answered, voice clipped. Hanging up, he faced me. The city skyline a jagged promise behind him. Prototype flaw could ground the fleet. "They need me tonight. Dawn flight to Everett." Panic clawed my throat. Echoes of Jake's, just this once trips that became forever. "Now? After everything? I have to," he said, pained. "It's not leaving, it's providing. For us." Thunder rumbled distant, heat lightning flickering like doubt. I stood, blanket tangling at my feet. Or it's the excuse. The job always wins, right? Like family did for him. Victor's face hardened, hurt flashing. "Damn it, Adriel. This isn't Jake. I'm choosing you every day. But I can't fake who I am." Words escalated, sharp as shears. My fears of abandonment, his frustration at being measured against ghosts. "I grip your hand through storms," he shouted, voice cracking over the lake's lap. "What more proof?" The sky split then, torrents unleashing biblical in fury. We scrambled for the truck, soaked to the bone, argument dissolving into urgency. Sheets of rain blinded the windshield. I gripped the wheel white-knuckled, Victor navigating via wipers' frantic arcs. Halfway home, lightning cracked. A transformer exploding blocks away, plunging the street into blackout. The truck sputtered, headlights cutting futile swaths through the deluge. Engines flooded. I cursed, pulling over as it died. Water roared in the gutters like accusations. We sat, drenched, silence heavy. Then Victor's hand found mine across the console. Not tentative, but fierce. Gripping like that night in the garage, but amplified, unbreakable. "Look at me," he said, turning my face to his. Rain streaked the windows, world reduced to our bubble. "I'm not going anywhere. Not tonight, not ever. The job? This 8 hours, then home to you. But this us is my North Star." Tears mixed with rain on my cheeks. The doubt, the betrayal's residue. It washed away in that grip, leaving raw truth.
Im skarat, bik.
Of losing this. Then hold on tighter. He leaned across, forehead to mine, breaths sinking in the storm's roar. "We're built for gales, remember? Craftsman stock. Weather the hell out of it." We laughed then, wet, ragged, real. Called a tow from a payphone, my truck's battery dead too. Huddled under his jacket as thunder rolled finale. The ride home was chaos. Cabbie griping about the fare. But we clung, hands linked, the crisis forging us stronger. Back in the garage by midnight, tow truck rumbling away, we stripped to towels, shivering under the single bulb. No grand gestures, just drying each other's hair, brewing tea, curling into bed with the rain's lullaby. "Marry me," Victor whispered into the dark, casual as a toolbox borrow. I stilled, heart leaping. Yeah, hell yes. Not rings or ceremonies yet, just vows etched in quiet. To grip through surprises, to borrow tools and souls without reservation. Autumn returned, leaves carpeting the valley in gold. My book sold to that Portland press. A quiet debut, but Victor's pride lit brighter than launches. We hiked the Issaquah Alps, his arm healed, our steps synced. Neighbors toasted at block parties, Jake a faded postcard from another life. The humanistic close, not fairy tale perfection, but earned grace. 2 men, scarred by America's churn. Jobs that demand, families that fracture, loves that betray, choosing each other daily. Victor's solar wings powered a village in Appalachia. My stories whispered resilience to college kids dreaming queer futures. And in the garage that wrench still hangs, a talisman. He came for a tool but stayed for the man. In the end, we gripped not just hands, but futures. Surprising, steadfast, profoundly ours.